My name is Julie Hardesty. I'm a metadata analyst at Indiana University, and I'm going to share about our Hyrax implementation at IU. And it is also called digital collections. So I tried to qualify it as digital collections at IU, but you know. So the scope for this, it's digitalcollections.iu.edu is the public interface for that. And the scope for this is digital repository. So we're not doing institutional repository. We're doing more special collection management. So it's digital images, digital objects with multiple pages, archival materials that we are managing, and collection managers within IU are managing. So as of today, we have quite a bit of content in place. 34 different admin sets, over 400 collections, and over 150,000 works across those collections. And a lot of this is reflecting content that we are migrating from legacy services that we've had at IU for many years, probably 20 years plus. We are starting to get collection managers into this implementation, this Hyrax implementation, to add new content, but that's there's not a lot of that that's been happening so far. So far, most of this is coming from trying to do migration work. So this is what the interface looks like. So our Hyrax implementation is set up for all the campuses that we have across IU, and then breaks down into the different collections from each of those campus locations. And so I wanted to share a little bit. This is a lot of this is the same ShareFair presentation I gave at the Midwest, but it does have a couple of updates. So for us, the IIIF viewer is a big improvement over what we've had, what we've provided in legacy systems that we've been using for special collections and archival material. We can actually embed that viewer in our finding aid site, and the Black Film Center and Archive example is we'll show you what this looks like. So this is the finding aid view, and then we actually are seeing the item, the digitized item that would be that's managed over in digital collections, actually showing here in the context of the finding aid. So that's been pretty fantastic. And now I can't get back to my presentation. Good job, me. Okay, there we go. And back into the view. Sorry. Thought I knew how to do this. I do not know how to do this. All right. So there's a screenshot of that. Let's make it bigger. Here we go. I need to actually, sorry, there's more good stuff than the IIIF viewer. So that's also provided us with search within capabilities for text-based digitized content, which was not something that we had previously. So that's also been a really big improvement over our legacy systems. And it's also simplified our metadata management, and for the most part, simplified our collection management. We're still getting into that, trying to get collection managers in place in the new system, working with that content behind the scenes. But it is a single system for managing that content versus multiple legacy services that each had custom editing, and cataloging interfaces. And this is also something that we've now made available university-wide for collection management purposes. So all of those campuses that we saw on that homepage, we were more focused with serving Bloomington collections and repositories previously. And we wanted to make this something that would be available across all the campuses, but not all of the campuses have specialized positions like archivists and catalogers that can do that sort of work. And so it needed to be something that could be set up for easier data management, data entry, that sort of thing. So putting Hyrax in place has helped that a lot for those purposes as well. So anyway, this is the screenshot of the viewer from digital collections being embedded in a separate site for use to share. So challenges, I've got kind of a two-parter here. So we have quite a few challenges that we're managing at the moment. A lot of them are around migration. The migration work that we're doing right now is pretty intensive work. We're having to regenerate. We're having to create derivatives brand new for the IIIF viewer. We didn't have the same sort of derivative setup that in our previous legacy systems. And having to recreate or having to generate new derivatives is pretty time consuming, pretty intensive work when you've got as big of a backlog as we have to do the migration that we're trying to do. So it's a massive amount of content. And so we're also trying to do all of this ingesting. A lot of times, multiple people are trying to do this migration work at once. And so we're having to we're using Sidekick to try and line up these processes and keep things moving, but it's still, even with Sidekick, it's still a lot to manage and can get overwhelming. It's a separate, we now have a separate Hyrax instance. We just set this up and we're hoping that this is going to help improve things. So we have a separate Hyrax instance with its own separate Sidekick for processing just migration materials. And then our production instance is now in place just for collection managers working with new things being added, which shouldn't be as much, big chunks of content all at once. So we'll see if that helps things along for us to get collection managers using the system more. And then another challenge that we've been having with our migrated content is we were doing this migration work before we had our collection managers, the folks who actually are, dealing with these collections, the physical collections, and also would be managing on the back end the digital versions of these collections. We didn't have them in the system when we started doing this migration work. And now that we have done that, now that we have content migrated in, we're basically having to go back and give them permission to those things, to those works that have been added. And it's not, Hyrax isn't really set up to manage that very well. We're having to kind of batch edit sets of works to add people on to the works. So it's instead of being able to just say anything that's in this admin set, this person gets access to it as a user. It's not working that way. So that is something that I think maybe we'll see some improvements on with some of this work that we have coming up, but we'll see. So the second part of our challenges that I'm going to share here is dealing with, this is something that we've been, it's coming up not a lot, but when it comes up, it's a big problem, is super large original images in the IIIF viewer. We're having problems with that, and we're finding it really fascinating that we're still, even with IIIF, we're still having problems with these really large files. We've been using JPEG 2000 derivatives, and when the original file is large enough, the JPEG 2000 derivative is even too large. And it's more to do with the IIIF image server or Fedora 4 trying to load those or read those out for viewing. But we're encountering that being a problem. And we also have this, I think maybe particular to our processing, but our local image processing is requiring OCR. There's a step in our processing for derivative generation that just does OCR whether or not we need it. So we're having to kind of work around that with in cases where we don't need OCR, when we know we don't need OCR. So that's been taking some time to figure out, because when things are super large, and an OCR file is trying to be generated, like for a map or something that doesn't actually have text on it, then it becomes a big step to have something try to OCR a super large file that doesn't even require any OCR, doesn't have anything to OCR. And then we're looking at pyramidal TIFFs, and I think this is something that other institutions have potentially also gotten into or switched over to from JPEG 2000. And also storing those external to Fedora is going to be another step that we're looking at. And I think we're just about to the point where we're ready for that to take place, to have our derivative files stored outside of Fedora, which will particularly help us right now because we're currently using Hyrax 296 with Fedora 4. And that's I think a lot of this is a lot of the issues that we encounter are dealing with trying to manage derivative files, content stored in Fedora 4 and being read out of Fedora 4. So updating is another big challenge that we have. And we were brought this up at the Midwest regional meeting and actually got some really great news it was news to me. I think other people knew this and I just didn't get it. But the light bulb went off because upgrading to Hyrax 5, we know that's going to help out with performance a lot, but it turns out you can upgrade to Hyrax 5 and stay on Fedora 4. And then on the back end, after you upgrade to Hyrax 5, you can get content in Fedora 4 moved over to Fedora 6. So that, once I figured that out, was super great news, because that actually gets us a path where all of the stuff that we've already jammed into our Hyrax 296 with Fedora 4, we can actually get that moved over into Fedora 6 and have Hyrax 5 updates, which will, I think, help us out with some of these performance issues in a big way. So that was really great to find out at the Midwest regional meeting. So I appreciated that. That is actually the update that I have. So thank you.